I am with Dylan Fernandes, and he is a state representative from the Falmouth and the Islands area, correct?
Right. Yeah.
And we wanted to talk to him today because he is a real advocate for the environment and other issues that we're interested in. So we wanted to ask you a little bit about that. So tell us some of the great work that you've been doing at the State House.
Yeah, well, I vice chair the Committee on the Environment.
Okay.
And so a lot of the environmental bills come before the committee I play a leadership role in. And so that's a lot of stuff around nitrogen and phosphorus and water quality issues. There's a lot of impacts on, we're in Plymouth, especially the ponds in Plymouth, but really everywhere. And then around wastewater infrastructure. How do we protect our ponds? How do we protect our bays and estuaries and really valuable, incredible water resources? So there's a lot of things to do there, around pipes and pumps to help reduce nitrogen pollution and other types of pollution, around supporting new types of septic tank systems. And so we just recently passed, and people should know this, we tripled the septic tax credit. And so it used to be $6,000 to replace your septic tank. Now it's $18,000 you get back, which is a good chunk of change. And then also you get a zero interest loan on top of that. So it makes it really affordable. Not only is that good for homeowners, but that's actually, it's really good for our environment as well. So there's a lot of things going on too. And then of course around, coastal resiliency. We have really aggressive climate goals in the state. The most aggressive in the country to get us to net zero by 2050. But we could, stop reducing emissions today in Massachusetts, and the seas are still going to rise between 2 to 6 feet. How do we prepare for that? How do we prepare for increased storms? These are all things that we're thinking about, and there's some solutions there.
Is there a lot that the state can do? Because it's overwhelming, really, the amount of issues that are surrounding the environment.
Yeah, so there's a lot. There's a lot the state can do, and there's a lot more the state will have to do. So around kind of climate issues, we're on pace to get to net zero by 2050, and we're hitting our goals. We're on pace to hit our 2030 goal of 50% reduction by then. So that's good. There's going to be more to do there. We haven't done enough as a state around supporting heat pumps and allowing people to electrify their home heating. And we haven't done enough around electric vehicles and charging stations. So those are areas we need to work on. And then when it comes to coastal resiliency, there's so much to do there too. I think the focus needs to be around nature-based solutions. So a lot of the seas are going to rise, storms are going to get worse. We're seeing that play out all over the country right now. The first step in that is making sure that we know which places are salvageable, because there are some places where you can put in millions, billions of dollars, and no matter what, it's just not going to exist in 50 or so years. And so you need to make sure that you're investing in places that are savable, and there's data there that we have, and maps and projections that show us which places are savable and which places we're going to have to let go, and that makes us allows cities and towns, allows the state to be a better steward of taxpayer dollars so that we're not wasting them. And the most important first step when it comes to coastal resiliency is around investing in our estuaries, our rivers, and other kind of nature-based places so that we are restoring them. So when the water rises, it's not flowing onto our streets, but it's flowing up rivers that have been restored, or an estuary that's been restored, or something like that where it's nature-based.
Oh, that's fascinating. So there's people actually working on these things then, restoring some of these estuaries and rivers?
Oh yeah, yeah, and there's state funding there that's available, and federal and local, and so some of these projects are a big combination of different groups. A lot of times the fisheries industry is involved too, because some of these rivers, especially the herring runs, have been dammed off or blocked off, and so that's bad because for a couple of reasons. One, water can't flow there naturally and help with coastal resiliency, but also it's been really hurting the fishing population, like herring, alewife, other types of fish that go upstream. And so by restoring these rivers, you're also restoring some of the big feedstock fish that sustain different types of the industry.
That's great. I know there's been a lot of work done on that here in Plymouth, and that's really great to see. It had a great effect already.
Yeah, I know at Plymouth there's a project right downtown working on this, and there's projects all over the district on this. And this is the first step, and then eventually, and this is probably coming soon, there has to be, from the state level, some updates to how we handle our coasts, because a lot of those laws are from the 70s and 80s and just didn't take into consideration climate change and sea level rise. And so there's some updating that needs to be done there. And then we need to put more money into what's called our MVP program, our Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. And that's where a lot of the funding comes from to make sure that our coasts are resilient and not kind of overrun with the changing climate.
Can you see those changes happening in the near future? Is most of the legislature on board to make those changes?
Yeah, most of the legislature is on board. This coming year, there's going to be an environmental bond bill. So that's, I think, where a lot of these changes are going to take place, and they'll be largely out of the Committee on the Environment. So that'll be an interesting place to be to kind of shape some of these changes. And broadly, there's broad agreement that in Massachusetts that climate change is real, that it's impacting our environment, and that we need to take steps to protect people from it.
That's excellent. I'm really glad to hear that. So other issues, Marcia and I are in the baby boomer generation.
No, not you. No.
She's actually in the greatest generation.
Wow.
I don't know why they call it that, but...
Well, because Marcia's in it.
Okay. She'll get a big head. So some of how much are you aware of issues that affect the elderly and senior citizens? There's a lot of issues. There's ageism, and there's financial issues. How involved have you gotten with that? What do you know, and what's going on in the state?
Well, there's a lot there, and I represent the third oldest county in America. That's Barnstable County from a demographic perspective. So, been dealing with and working on those issues for a while. I mean, there's so many different parts of it. One is around reducing, healthcare costs, and we've done some work in the legislature to help with that. We recently just passed a long-term care bill. This is a really important step as well to bring more oversight to our long-term care facilities, which didn't have enough oversight and transparency in them. And then also there's now mandates there around how they deal with different types of disease outbreaks, and this stems that part of the bill stems from what happened during COVID and how those facilities really were not prepared, and unfortunately a lot of people passed because of that. So clearly a lot of work needed to be done there. And then there's more that we've allowed to municipalities to do, and municipalities can give tax breaks for seniors around property taxes and things like that that can be really beneficial in terms of lowering monthly costs. So those are a few things, but always kind of more to do.
Of course. I mean, there's livable communities kind of movement going on that makes sure, even not even just elderly, but for families, that there's more walking, places to walk safely, more bus service, public transportation, and places where seniors can walk and sit frequently when they need to. All those kinds of anything good happening there that you know of?
Well, I mean, one thing I passed the state's first legislation around electric bicycles, and that was actually a really big deal for the elderly senior community, because biking is such an incredible activity, and there's a lot of research behind this that shows that people who bike, they live longer, they're healthier. It really improves all these different health metrics and allows people to get outside, access the community. But for a lot of seniors and people that are more elderly, they reach an age where they're not able to bike anymore, and so electric bike, like just having a pedal assist, is really, really important. And so I passed the state's first legislation around that, codifying that in Massachusetts, allowing that for there are different classes of e-bikes I get into, but it allows for class 1 and class 2 e-bikes, and so I think that's an important piece. And then we also passed, one big issue for everyone, but particularly seniors, is cost of housing, and huge issue. One thing that we've done recently, we passed the Affordable Homes Act, biggest piece of housing legislation in a generation, so really important piece to help everyone with housing. But one component of that was allowing accessory dwelling units by right, or like these, they call them in-law apartments or grandmother apartments. So these are, up to 900 square feet. Now everyone's allowed to do them by right in the state. That'll be really important for seniors who want to downsize, to be able to have a 900 square foot flat, and maybe they can rent out their home and have sustainable income there, or find other ways and other use for that property. Maybe it's having the kids move into the house, and then there's a lot of different ways for that to be creative, and I think that to really help with everyone with housing, but particularly seniors.
Excellent. Well, the bike thing, Marcia and I love our e-bikes.
Yeah, nice.
So,
nice.
yeah.
I have one too. Yeah, they're fun.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
And I bike so much more because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had bikes, but after getting an e-bike, in the summertime, I don't even use my car unless I absolutely have to.
Oh, wow. And it makes the hills so much easier. Like, some of the hills can be pretty steep, and no matter how old you are, you can get really out of breath. But if you have the e-bike, it's just great.
You're good. More people exercising, always a good thing.
Yeah. Well, good for you for doing that. Are there any other issues that we should be aware of? What do you want people to do? How about voting? How important is it to vote?
So important to vote. So important to vote. It's a huge election year. There are many ways to vote. My time in the legislature, we passed, so now people you can mail-in vote. You can vote early. I think it's starting on the 19th, so you get 2 weeks out. You can vote on the weekends. There are times after work you can go into town hall and vote. So there are many options available to people now, and so there's no real excuse to not, get out and vote. And you got to make your voice heard. That's so important. And your vote is really a sacred thing in a democracy. And it's so important that we are, protecting our democracy, especially in this election. And so I hope people go out and cast their vote.
Excellent. Okay. What about other issues? Anything pressing?
Because we're standing in front of Cape Cod Bay, we did just file a petition in front of the Department of Environmental Protection, trying to get Holtec to stop dumping nuclear wastewater into Cape Cod Bay. And so, that's the DEP rejected Holtec's permit to do that. Now Holtec is appealing, and I'm one of 19 petitioners in the appeal, pushing back against Holtec, saying that the DEP was right in blocking them from dumping. And so we're going to continue to make sure nuclear wastewater doesn't get dumped in the bay here. And it's not just environmental and public health related. I think a really big part of this is around its impact on small businesses and jobs here, especially around the fishing industry. And we're joined. Fishing industry is one partner in this as well. Marketability is so important, and it will have impacts on the shellfishing industry, fishing industry. It'll have impacts on our tourism industry in terms of going to the beach and things like that. So, it's something we're going to keep fighting on.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think this is great. I think that's great. What do you think? All
Well,
right.
Dylan, I really appreciate you. You have the youth and the energy that I think we really need to run our government. Some of us
you.
are getting tired and
Yeah,
want to
same
step
time.
back, and it's really important to have people like you in the legislature, fighting for our environment, our housing costs and the whole bit. So we
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah, anytime. Go vote.
Yes.
All right.